It's Tuesday morning on campus at Loyola University, Chicago. The Ramblers' student body is on spring break. For sophomore setter Garrett Zolg, however, it's another typical day. That means practice with the men's volleyball team at Gentile Arena at 8 a.m. sharp. The Ramblers are in the final month of their regular season, taking full advantage of a much-needed week-long stretch of off days before a West Coast road trip. But for Zolg, Tuesday's practice might as well be match point of the NCAA championship game. You can tell from his intensity.
If you play as hard as you can every single day, you don't have to change anything for the big games or any games in general. You know, some guys, I feel like, have had issues universally cracking under pressure. For me, it's just trying to show up and work as hard as you can. You never have to change anything.
Zolg has proven on the hardwood that he is incessantly passionate, and if you don't believe him, let his stats speak for themselves. The lefty is second in the entire nation in assists per set, averaging slightly over 11. The team isn't doing too bad either. The Maroon and Gold have been ranked in the top 10 for the vast majority of their season and are poised for a deep tournament run. But how and when did Garrett Zolg become the player and man he is today?
8th grade was when I first started playing club volleyball. I was a club soccer player. I played from kindergarten to 8th grade, and I kind of burned out. And then I was looking for something new and tried out for club volleyball, and I just found the spark, and I haven't lost it. So I'm just gonna keep riding with it as long as I can.
Zolg's been an athlete since the very beginning, playing countless different team sports all the way through his childhood. But in high school in California, as well as on his club team on the side, he learned to be a competitor.
My team never made it past the second round of playoffs, and we had 2 D1 players. And you would think in a lot of other states, if you had at least one D1 guy, you were going super far. But there were just so many really good players, and you would have to bring your A game every single day.
Zolg went to Mater Dei High School in Huntington Beach, serving as his team's captain for 3 straight years. He was Mater Dei's Male Athlete of the Year and drew interest from countless in-state volleyball powerhouses during his senior season. In what he called the toughest decision of his entire life, he decided to be adventurous and bet on himself at the only out-of-state university that gave him an offer.
You know, a lot of people call me crazy for leaving the sunshine, the 75 and sunny every day, but I had an opportunity to explore a new city, you know, something I probably would never have gotten a chance to do if I had stayed home. I had an opportunity to get a great education, an opportunity to go to a private school. That was important to me.
Now, he says his teammates would describe him as crazy, but in a good way.
I would say, they'd probably say I'm a pretty crazy guy. You gotta be crazy, I feel like, to be successful. You gotta be passionate, you gotta love what you do. And those are some things that, you know, I'm really passionate about the sport I play with the heart on my sleeve. I'm really passionate, try to be really talkative, go as hard as I can every single day. So I think they would just say like hardworking, funny, crazy guy that just doing it for the boys.
Ramblers head coach Mark Holz, who called his sophomore leader feisty, is used to Zolg's dynamic and nonstop energy.
But he's just so consistent with it, which is cool. You know, it doesn't do us much good if it spikes, highs and lows, and one day you're kind of quiet and the next day you're kind of going off the rails with some intensity. It's hard to gauge that, it's hard to react to it. He's like that on a Tuesday, he's like that in the practice gym, he's like that in the weight room, he's like that in the classroom. He's a really focused, driven, moderately intense young guy, and so it allows everybody to kind of feed off of that.
Here's the thing. While some student athletes devote their skills toward personal accolades, Zolg personifies the position that he plays. It's never about individual praise or accomplishments. Zolg just wants to make others better by setting them up for success. Fellow sophomore and outside hitter Devin Jocelyn, who's been roommates with Zolg for 2 years and counting, said he's simply never had a better teammate.
I've never really had anybody like on a team that's like that gets you that fired up. Like, I don't know, someone goes and does a play that maybe he wasn't even involved in, and he's like getting fired up for that person, and kind of just shows like that he doesn't really care about like his stat line or like what people think of him technically, but just like more of the outcome of, I guess, the team winning and everyone being successful at the same time.
Back on February 2nd, against visiting Penn State, Zolg had the game of his life, dishing out a career-high 57 assists. The Ramblers won in 4 sets, but looking back, Coach Holst knows that the numbers meant nothing to Zolg. It was the W in the win column that meant the most.
60 assists or whatever it was against Penn State, if he did that and we lost, I can assure you not 1 ounce of him would be happy. And some guys are like, I had a pretty good night, the team let me down, and that's not in Garrett Zolg's blood.
I didn't even think that I had that many assists. I was just trying to focus on getting the win for the guys. It doesn't matter if I get the stats or the recognition from other people or NCAA or anything like that. That's just not my focus.
While Zolg spends the majority of his time at Gentile Arena, you can also find him here quite a bit in the Life Sciences building where he has most of his classes. Zolg is an exercise science major aspiring to be a physical therapist just like his dad. In other words, that unwavering intensity to help others on the court has translated in a huge way to the classroom and beyond.
I figured I've been around athletes my whole life. It wouldn't be too bad of a gig to pay that back and just hang out with more athletes and get them back to the sports they love. And it's not an easy major for sure. I got to work my tail off.
And work his tail off he does, every single morning.
So usually we have practice at 8 a.m., like during the school year. So I'll wake up at either 6 or 6:15. Some of the guys will go early into practice. We'll get some extra reps. Some guys will be serving and passing, and then I'll be setting, and if guys are wanting to hit, I'll set those guys.
After 2 hours of practice, it's straight to the weight room for another hour. Next, a shower, a quick bite to eat, and then it's time for class.
I usually like my schedule stacked back to back to back, so I'll usually have 3 or 4 classes from 11:30 to around 3:30, and then I'll have the rest of the day to kind of unwind and do my homework. But it's basically a grind from 6 to 3:30 every day. It's kind of like just having a job.
According to Jocelyn, however, Zolg doesn't stop there. He knows in order to succeed in the classroom, sometimes you need to buckle down and focus. His discipline is impeccable.
I would say him saying he's going to do homework, maybe 12 o'clock, 12:30, and I don't see him until maybe 12 o'clock at night. He's like, yeah, I got a big test tomorrow, so I'm going to study for that, and I'm just going to focus on that thing and kind of just sit there and don't do anything else. Don't talk to anybody about study and really focus on the test.
To Holst, the sophomore isn't just a leader on the court, but a trailblazer with his actions off of it. He believes the California native is already guaranteed to leave a lasting influence on this program for years to come, thanks in large part to Zolg's motto, "For the boys."
I'm quite sure that he will leave a bit of a legacy, for lack of a better term, in terms of, hey, how do we interact with our teammates? How do we bring it every single day? He's changed that about the gym. I think they say "for the boys" is kind of what they like to say. I bet he would kind of gauge his impact, gauge his success on if he came back 5 years from now. Is it still a bunch of guys who are playing hard for the guy next to him and just kind of showing out and supporting each other? And I suspect he'll have an impact in that regard.
No matter what, you just got to be for the boys. Maybe if some guy needs some help, maybe with class or picking their schedule or hanging out on the weekends, you never want to leave your guys out to dry. You always want to be there for your teammates. And then part of being a team is not doing it for yourself, not being a selfish individual. You always do it for your teammates. That's kind of something that I preach. For the boys is a good mantra to have.
So as the Ramblers break the huddle, signaling the end of a random Tuesday practice, this student-athlete isn't taking any days off. Sure, it might be spring break, but Zolg has a busy day ahead, full of watching film, tackling assignments, and continuing to be the best teammate he can be. From Loyola University, Chicago, this is Max Goodman, NNN Sports.